You're very welcome to today's episode of Skin Deep by Karina Tolan. This is really new. So to you listening, I'm sure it all sounds very normal, but for me, it's very new because first of all, I have no guests today. I am the guest. I am recording on my own. And second of all, I'm recording in my home, which would be the dream if I was able to continue this. I'm not sure I'll be able to have the house this quiet very frequently. On that note, Bonnie might kick off, but that's okay. So before we go any further, I want to thank Lusotan, our sponsors of Skin Deep by Karina Tolan, without whom we wouldn't even have a podcast. So thanks as always to the team at Lusotan, have been a huge supporter of mine since their business began. Lusotan, similar to Monica Tolan, the skin experts, is sisters working together, and they first worked in a beauty and skincare clinic, and they still have that clinic, and then they launched Lusotan. So I love Lusotan. I'm going to say I hated self-tanning lotion up until meeting Lusotan brand. Self-tanning just never really worked well for me. I always felt kind of dirty and I didn't feel like I hated the fade off, and obviously working with people and with my hands touching people's faces all day long, it was so important for me that they looked clean. And with Lusotan, I found a dream product. I'm wearing it today. I know I have a cardigan on and stuff, but I am wearing it today. I always have it on. I love it. It's the only tan I've ever used. It is a skin health tan. They work with ingredients like lactic acid and vitamin A, and I wanted to run through their Christmas kits. We have these at monicatolan.com, and then also you can purchase at lusotan.com, and Lusotan have very kindly given us and all my listeners a discount code SkinDeep20. So I just want to run through, this is the Luxe collection. This kit is phenomenal. Also, I will tell you, my kids also love this tan, and I just love using a tan on them that's not going to cause their skin to become inflamed, etc. So let me run through everything that's in this kit. We have the primer. The primer is a stunning hydrating mist that you mist any area of the body you're about to apply tan onto, and it really hydrates. I applied it last night and I mist my hands with the primer first, and then I also mist my brush with the primer and work the tan in with it. So we have the award-winning Rapid Mousse, so that is in here, as well as the Gradual Tan, which is one of their product launches. It's a build-up tan. We have the mitt, the exfoliating mitt, a cleansing pad. We also have the brush, which is key if you want an even application, particularly on hands and feet. We have the tan removing bath bomb, absolutely phenomenal. I love it. You guys know how much I love my baths. Even if I have no tan on, I use their bath bombs. And then we have a headband, and this one retails at €65, but the value of it is €145. That's more than double the price, which is fantastic. And then we also have a smaller, these are great little Santi presents as well, especially if you have teenage daughters like myself. So the second is the Radiant Glow, and in here we have the mousse again, we have the mitt, we have the bath bomb, and there's some tanning tips on here, and this is €32 but valued at €50. So I wanted to run through them. Check out Lusotan's incredible kits at, like I said, at lusotan.com, and make sure you use SkinDeep20 to get 20% off. So today's episode of Skin Deep, like I said, it's very new, very different, but it's a really important one, obviously, as they all are. I often say, unless it really mattered to me, I wouldn't bring you the episode. So today, what I want to discuss with you is what I was doing in Germany not even 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago tomorrow, I headed over to Germany, brought my husband with me to mind me. I considered bringing my sisters, but I felt they wouldn't mind me as well as he would. And I had a Blepharoplasty surgery, our eyelid surgery. And I'm going to go in and out and tell you exactly who, where, why, when, and how. I want to give you all the details, really, because I would have appreciated this podcast in the run-up to having my surgery, but also even the weeks, months beforehand, when I always knew that this was something I would probably do, but I was in no rush or panic to get it done. So let me go right back to explain to you how and when I decided that a blepharoplasty was for me. Well, all of my life, I have always been the image of my mom, and everyone would have always told me I was the image of my mom. And in actual fact, my mom had brown eyes, and I'm one of 5 children, and I'm the only one that got brown eyes. So everyone would say to me, you have your mom's eyes, you have your mom's eyes. And now that my mom has passed away, quite honestly, I absolutely do have her eyes, as I have her hands. And it does, honestly, if I look in the mirror and I just stare at my eyes, I feel like I'm looking at her. It's so lovely and brings me such a feeling of peace and being close to her at this point now that she's gone. But I also remember as a kid, you know, I used to watch my mom get ready. I don't know about you guys, but when my parents used to go out on a Saturday night, they got so dressed up, like, wow. Sometimes my mom was in full length dresses, but I used to watch her doing her makeup, and oh my God, I'd be in a trance, particularly watching her putting on her mascara. And no joke, when I'm putting on my own mascara now, I find myself just getting a flashback, because again, the eyes are just so similar. So I'm 45 now, but when I was about maybe 37, 38, I was like, oh, this is really, really weird, because, you know, I am the image of my mom and I have my mom's eyes, but I feel like I'm getting my dad's eyelids. Just what way my eyes were beginning to age, I noticed that I was getting quite a heavy lid. And as the years were ticking over, it was getting heavier and heavier, to the point when I was maybe about 42, I was like, I would 100% have his eyes. So his eyes were beautiful. My dad's now passed away as well. But I was like, damn, you know, I'm going to end up with a really heavy eyelid. So just for me, I was like, I'm going to have to do something about that, because I felt, you know, it was kicking off already. I was early 40s. So I knew by 10 years time, it would be quite heavy. And I love doing my eye makeup. I love putting on eyeliner, mascara. I love my eyeshadows. I was like, damn, it's just not going to work for me. So already in my mind, I was like interested in a blepharoplasty surgery. I felt this was something that I would probably have at some point. And then I was working in London in our London clinic in Swiss Cottage, and a client came in to me. And she told me, I don't know for sure how old this client is, but I'm going to say maybe mid-60s. And she told me that she's had 3 blepharoplasty surgeries. I was like, what? 3? Now, first of all, I will tell you about this client. I'm underneath a mag lamp. She's lying on my facial couch with her eyes closed. And I'm searching through a magnifying lamp through the mag lamp, I'm searching for a scar, and I couldn't see one. Her skin was amazing. This lady's from South Africa, and she has been using Environ skincare since 1980s. So she went on to tell me, I was like, I stood up and came around, and I was like, oh my God, your blepharoplasties, the work is phenomenal. And she went on to tell me how she'd had 3 surgeries, one in her 40s, 50s, and one in her 60s. And I was like, how is this even possible? There's not, I can't find a scar, and I'm searching for it. And her eyes were just perfect. When I say perfect, she looked like, you know, maybe in her 50s, you know, she looked like a mature woman, but she looked incredible. And that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want to look 20. I love being 45, and I love who I am right now in my life, and I hope that continues. But she just looked so good, and that's what I was here for, you know. So she went on to say to me that she said, she said 100% get it done now. Don't wait. Why would you wait? You want to enjoy the benefits of this surgery. And she said it's absolutely nothing, little or no downtime, little or no healing is required. It's not invasive surgery at all. I kind of got the impression that maybe she'd had more invasive surgery, but I wasn't asking her about it, and she wasn't volunteering that information either. But she did say to me, if you can have it done in South Africa, the South African surgeons are phenomenal. And I was like, okay, that's very, very interesting. So I had joined a few kind of blepharoplasty support groups on Facebook, and I'd been looking at the surgery on TikTok. And if any of you are on social media, you know that once you start looking for something, the algorithm automatically starts to send you more and more of this content. So I had been looking, and I was still, at this point, I was in no rush, absolutely no rush to have the blepharoplasty. I still felt it was something on my horizon that I would have done, but I was really going to wait until I felt that I had found a surgeon that, you know, fitted my criteria. You know, there had to be an element of trust there. They would have to have you know, skin knowledge too. Our thoughts on skin and skin health would have to align. You know, I couldn't work with somebody who dismissed my whole industry or my whole concept of skin and skincare and skin health. So there was various different things that I was happy to sit and let the universe come to me about. Like I said, I was in no panic about the surgery. But what that lady had said had made me realise that I would have it done now. And then if I needed it done again in my 50s or 60s, I'd probably have it done again at that stage. So that was it was just sitting with me. I wasn't doing anything with it. And then Environ Skincare announced a new medical director, Dr. Matthias Aust, who is a German cosmetic surgeon who had worked under Dr. Des Fernandez in Cape Town, South Africa for a long time. Like I'm thinking maybe 15 years or more. So when I met Dr. Ace, I was invited over to London in June, and I interviewed him, and that went really, really well. And he was an incredible guy, very charismatic. I loved how passionate he was about Environ skincare and about skin health, and also his needling and his needling research. He's done a lot of research into micro needling, and also he'd worked a lot with scar patients. He'd done a lot of research with scarring. He actually had got it approved in Germany for the health insurance to cover Environ skincare for scar patients. So this was all blowing my mind, but also at the back of my mind, I was thinking, wow, cosmetic surgeon, you know, who is passionate about scarless healing, and could be the guy for me. So then that was fine, and we went out. So I think that was the day of the awards, and I met him briefly. And then the next morning I went to IIA offices in London, and I interviewed him that morning. And he great, absolutely great guy, really, really friendly as well. And like I said, I was already intrigued. So that night we went out for dinner, and we had a great night, and not just him and I, it was about 20 of us, a lot of journalists, etc. were there. And I said to him, I want to have a blepharoplasty surgery. Would you do it for me? So he said, the first thing he said was, you don't need blepharoplasty surgery. And I was like, that's very kind of you to say so, but I definitely am going to have it done, and I would love you to do it for me. And he said, I will of course do it for you. And he said, it is nothing, it's minimum surgery, it's not at all invasive, and it's absolutely fantastic surgery, and we will do it, no problem at all. We exchanged email addresses. So that was June, and that was it. I reached out to his email. He put me in touch with his PA, or front of house, in his surgery in Germany, and I locked in a date. So this was June, and then I'd locked in a date for October. What my thought process was that I'd be well healed by Christmas. Little did I think I'd be sitting here not even 2 weeks later well healed. But anyway, so that was my plan. I didn't really say it to anybody, but I wanted to let you guys know what I did do, because there's certain things that I did to prep for this surgery. And, you know, I get asked a lot from people reaching out to me having surgeries, sometimes for medical reasons, other times for cosmetic reasons. And is there anything I would recommend? Well, first of all, the most important thing going into any trauma in your life, and this can also be an involuntary trauma, so something like a fall, is that you have a very, very high content of vitamin A in your skin cells, a high content in your reservoirs, if you wish. So important that your cells are vitamin A rich and not deficient in vitamin A. And the only way you can ensure that they're not deficient in vitamin A is if you're using topical vitamin A every morning and every evening, and preferably taking oral vitamin A as well to boost your levels orally. And how I know this is because vitamin A is light sensitive. So the fact that the skin is that and the eyes are the only organs exposed to light means that every day of living, and I don't mean sunshine, you know, although today is absolutely glorious, but even a normal dull day, the vitamin A in your skin is being depleted all the time. So if you're not topping it up, almost like watering a plant, there's a really good job that you are deficient in vitamin A. And why this is really, really important is because vitamin A is the number one catalyst for all events in the skin. So it's responsible for proliferation, which is the cell's ability to turn one cell into another cell and into another cell. But that goes right down in the skin. It's not just keratinocytes, it's fibroblasts, it's every cell in the skin function, in the skin army, if you wish. You will often hear me refer to the skin as being like an army, and that's because its primary function is, of course, defense. So it's really important that before you go into these traumas, if you wish, but also things like menopause and pregnancy, any really life event, that you are vitamin rich, that all of your skin cells have an abundance of vitamin A and are carrying out their functions regularly and properly. Because when a skin cell becomes deficient in vitamin A, it gets very, very sluggish, very, very lazy, and it will ultimately and potentially can turn unhealthy, and it will start to reproduce other cells that are unhealthy. However, when you start to introduce vitamin A into your skincare routine morning and evening, and when you get vitamin rich, what happens is, even if a skin cell is looking to behave in an unhealthy way, vitamin A has the power to change that, literally to work on the DNA of the cell and say, be healthy, and not to replicate in an unhealthy manner. So that's really, really important. as you can imagine, much like any surgery, you know, if you were to have a heart surgery and you were overweight, your surgeon would ask you to go lose weight first, exactly the same way. So I often say with Environ Skincare, you know, yes, we all want to look good every day, but Environ Skincare and Vitamin Rich, I believe Vitamin A, or Environ, is one of the only skincare lines that you use vitamin A every morning and every evening. Some use a more irritating, light sensitive form of vitamin A, and you can only use it a couple of times a week. But we're not only exposed to light a couple of times a week, or we were exposed every day. So that's why it's like watering a plant that's in a kitchen window that's exposed to light all day. You need to do it every day and not sporadically. So So I often say with Environ Skincare, it's actually preparing you for life. You know, it's preparing you for all these events. You know, often what would happen is I would have someone reach out to me that has maybe had a burn or a cut or a fall. And I would say to them, well, the fact that you were, if they're my client, of course, the fact that you were vitamin A rich going into this trauma, you were already preparing for it, if you wish. So that's exactly how I knew I was good with my skin going into this surgery. I knew that I was going to be fine because I was using such high doses of vitamin A every morning and every evening. But I did work on my supplements. I would always kind of play around. There's a few things that are consistent in my supplement regime. Things like my probiotic just can't function without it. So I would always take my Skin Youth or my Skin Clear Biome every day. But I do love a 28-day pack from Environ Skincare, but I focused on the skin collagen synergy in the run up to this surgery. And the reason for that is I wanted to make sure I was making really, really good collagen, and that my body was being fed all the nutrients it required to make really, really good collagen, so that I could heal from this surgery as quickly as possible. And obviously, I'm hoping for minimum scarring as well, and it looks like that's the way it's going. So yes, I locked down on my skin collagen synergy. Now, I still did keep taking my Skin Even IQ, which I started during the summer as well, and I still also took my omegas, and I took my Skin Biome as well. But that was really important to me that I kept going with my skin collagen synergy. So that was in a run up to the surgery, and now I'm going to tell you exactly how it went down. So like I said, not even 2 weeks ago, I booked flights, and Podrick and I flew into Munich, and we hired a car and we drove down we decided where the Aus Aesthetic Clinic is probably about a half an hour from Munich in a drive, but it's only a very small village-like town. So we thought we'd stay in another town. I think it's called August. I will confirm that though, don't worry, before the podcast uploads exactly what it was called. And we decided we would stay there. So we took off very early on a Sunday morning, and my thought was that we could shop and do everything nice and enjoy Germany on the Sunday before my surgery, when I was fit and well and healthy and all the rest. But what I wasn't prepared for is that everything closes in Germany. So there was very, very few shops, even though they were absolutely beautiful. The most gorgeous underwear shops and Christmas shops and clothes, and beautiful clothes. Marco Polo's over there. Wolford Tights is German as well, and they were everywhere, and I'm a big fan of Wolford Tights. But yeah, gorgeous shoes, everything really was there, but it was all closed. And then we went out that night actually for a fabulous meal, and we just missed Oktoberfest, which is probably no harm, but we did have some really, really nice beer and really nice food as well. So then at this stage, I was not even nervous. I wasn't thinking about it. You know, I knew, like, the whole reason for me choosing Dr. Matthew's house was because I trusted him, and I held him in such high regard and had such respect for him. So I wasn't nervous at all, really. And then woke up Monday morning. We were to be in the clinic at 10 a.m. and I definitely was a little bit off driving down to the clinic on Monday morning. Like, I was probably a little bit quiet in the car with Podrick. I certainly wasn't telling him I was nervous. You know, there was a couple of things going through my mind. I was very mindful that I was fit and well, and I was about to go under the knife. Was there any real need? You know, I was like, what if something goes wrong and I've brought this on myself? And, you know, quite honestly, that's the reason why I didn't, on my social media account, I didn't tell everybody, because I was afraid I'd get this back, you know, oh, you don't need that surgery done. And I am human, you know, I do have normal thoughts like everybody else, and I would potentially take on those opinions as well. And I didn't want that. Now, I will tell you guys, I do have a subscription service within my Instagram account, and I aim it at professional accounts like salon owners and skincare professionals so that we can reach out and I can support them in a kind of mentorship role. And I was very candid with my subscribers. I told them everything. But my thoughts behind that was these were professionals within the industry as well. They would also have an interest in the whole surgery, and also they wouldn't be squeamish. I was mindful that some of my following might be squeamish too, but I'll tell you a couple of funny stories that happened after that. So went off Monday morning for the surgery and was greeted by Matthias and his colleague in the clinic, and it was actually so funny. As any of you business owners out there will appreciate this, and I know Rona did when I told her that, you know, normal staff issues on a Monday morning. One girl, I think, broke up with her boyfriend. She couldn't come into work. Someone else's neck hurt and someone else's car wouldn't start. So it was just the two surgeons there. One was answering the phone. I did comment that was an expensive receptionist, but this was actually worked really well in my favour because it meant that I had two cosmetic surgeons operating on me, because the other cosmetic surgeon was assisting Matthias. He hadn't assisted him in many, many years. Not that his skills were required, but it was nice to know. So anyway, I was greeted by Matthias and he reassured me, because all we'd really done was spoke that night in Claridge's at dinner about this surgery, and there was quite a few glasses of red wine, like we both had at that time. And I hadn't asked them any questions or anything, you know, all was well. So look, it was fine. So he took me into a room anyway, and he ran through the surgery with me, even though I did have a really good idea of what would be involved. And he did markings, where he marked my eyes and where he would cut. And what he said to me, which I wasn't really prepared for and I didn't know, but the minute he said it, it made a huge amount of sense to me, was that one of my eyes had a lot more skin than the other. None of us are symmetrical. That's why you'll often hear the phrase, eyebrows are sisters, not twins. None of us are symmetrical, and that's really our beauty. But yeah, when he said it to me, I was like, oh my God, you are right. So it's actually my right side that had a much heavier lid. So he was taking a lot more off that. So he did the markings, and did he ask me, was I happy? Like, I don't even think he did, because would it even matter? Now I just had purple biro all over my eyelids. He was a professional. This was his arena, and I was leaving him to perform this in whatever way you know, whatever his professional opinion was. As I said to him on more than one occasion, in Matthias I trust. In Matthias I trust. And I just kept saying that whenever it was required. So then he headed down, and his colleague, I can't think of his name now, the other cosmetic surgeon, met me, and he performed the anaesthesia, which was lidocaine injections. So I was 100% awake for the whole thing. I was more than awake, actually, I'll tell you that now. We'll get to that part. So he gave me some injections just around the eye area, which was absolutely pain-free. I didn't feel it. And then I guess I was numb, and Matthias came in then. And so I'd already said to Matthias, can I record it? Because I'm so interested in this. You know, sometimes people say to me, what would you like to be if you didn't do what I do? And I often think that I would like to be a medic in some way. And I even said to Matthias, I would love to work there for like a week or 2 weeks or even a month and sit in on all his surgeries. I would love that so much. So I was really keen to, I really wanted to watch the surgery. So I said to him, do you mind if I record it? In my mind, somebody else in the room was going to hold the phone. So anyway, they were about to get working, and I was like, what about me recording it? And Matthew's like, yeah, work away. So I literally held my phone up and recorded the whole surgery. Now, when I say the whole surgery, we weren't there for 9 hours. We were there for 15 minutes because it's incredibly quick. But my mind was blown. I'm so glad I've done that, because I must have watched this video about 100 times since. So they started on the right lid, and he cut the skin. I remember, well, not to remember, you probably may not know, but they are only taking skin in this surgery. They're not going anywhere near the muscle. So when he took the skin off, one thing he did, I don't know if it's unique, I've only ever had one blepharoplasty in my life, but he did cauterize any bleeding that was happening on my lid, and it would make a lot of sense to me. I knew straight away what he was doing, because I could smell burning flesh, and I work with coagulation in clinic as well. I burn a lot of skin lesions, and I know because I would often use my coagulating pen for to coagulate a bleed. I would often use my plasma pen, I beg your pardon, to coagulate a bleed. If a client is bleeding, I just stop the bleed with the heat. So I knew he was stopping the bleed. At this point, I wasn't watching. Even though at one point in the surgery, he said, do I want to open my eyes and have a look? I think it was when he was finished my right lid, and I did that. So when I said to him, I said, "Oh, you're burning the blood," and he was like, "Yeah, it's just." And I said, "No, it's okay. I know exactly what you're doing because I can smell it and I know what you're doing." I think he thought maybe that the thought of him doing that might have not frightened me, but I was like, "Absolutely, I'm here for it. Give me all the tea. I want to know everything you're doing." And actually, I said that to him on more than one occasion. I was like, "Now, what are you doing? Tell me what you're doing now. What are you doing now?" Because I was just curious, as well as it calmed me. The more he told me, the more I calmed. I could feel that. So he coagulated the blood. Once he took the skin off, he stopped all the subcutaneous bleeding, all the bleeding around that, that he said would greatly reduce the bruising afterwards and probably the swelling as well. So, and it really did, because I had very minimum. So then he stitched that up, and do you know what he did, which he hadn't mentioned me beforehand? He removed some fat. He could see, he'd mentioned there was some fat there, and he removed some fat underneath my eyelid. Then he went on and he did the left lid, which had less skin, but in actual fact had more fat, a good bit more fat. And that is what some of you may notice. Now, I don't mean milia, which is like little hard lumps of sebum secreted from the sebaceous gland, but some of you may notice, if not on yourself, but on family members, it would happen a lot in clinic. People would come in where they would have white patches around the eye area, and they can't be removed by us, but I would imagine this is exactly what Matthias was removing from under my eyelid. It was invisible through my skin, but as I age and as my skin gets thinner, it probably would have been, and also more of it would come. So he removed more fat from underneath my left lid, which actually had less skin. And you know, funny, I noticed that now my it's far less puffy, I think is what I'm trying to say, and I'm going to suppose that's because the fat is gone, which would have been kind of like a puffiness to my eyes. So then he stitched up both and put on some strips over it, and straight after, and was I a little bit panicked? Yeah, I kind of was, right? Because I'm not going to lie, this is me being very candid about the whole surgery. When I looked in the mirror, one of my eye was lifted up in a different direction to the other because of the strips, like, and the swelling. And you know, like, in my one half of my brain was saying, be reasonable, Karina, be sensible. Like, you know, you've just had surgery. You know, they're two different organs. Like your left eye and your right eye are completely separate. So one is going to heal in one way and one's going to heal in a different direction, but they'll arrive at the same destination. They might just take different routes, if you wish. But I was like, oh. And so Matthias adjusted the strip so that he could see by me that I was a little bit like, oh my goodness, one eye is different. Oh, lovely. This is great. This is a good look. By the way, I brought with me my dark Prada glasses, and they were an absolute godsend. So he set us on a little way. He gave me some cold from the freezer, some cold gel to hold on, to keep the compress, which would stop the bleeding as well. And we headed back. Pudgy and I was in no pain, no discomfort, none whatsoever. I was perfectly fine. Maybe feeling a little bit kind of adrenaline maybe afterwards. And we head back to the hotel, and I lay down and I kept the cold compress in my eyes. We were watching The Beckhams on Netflix, and it was actually quite funny because I hadn't told my brother about the surgery. I just told my sisters. And I hadn't told my brother, but one of my sisters squealed on me and told my brother. And my brother, who's 8 years older than me, would always have been kind of an authority figure, but now since my parents have deceased, he's like slid into that role of giving out to me whenever it's required. And he rang me, actually. It was so funny because I hadn't told Grace or Emer. They knew I was going to Germany, but I hadn't told them why. And he rang me, and Grace is in the car, and he's going mad down the phone. He was like, Karina, blah, 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 what are you going to Germany for? As soon as he said that, I was like, someone told him, and one of the girls told him. And he was like, you know, the usual big brother, and he's so sweet. He was like, you're perfect. I don't know why you would want to do something like that to your eyes, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I know. I said, I have to go now because I actually hadn't told Grace, and now you just have. And Grace is staring at me going like, what is going on? So I hung up the phone anyway. But so back in the hotel now, I'm watching the Beckhams. I have the cold compresses on my eye, and I took them off because they were kind of actually giving me a bit of a headache. I could feel my eyeball getting cold. And so next thing, I thought it was a tear, right? And I said to Podrick, is that a tear just running down? And Podrick's like, oh my God, it's blood. So he jumps up to grab a tissue. So I grabbed my phone, and I'm not going to lie, it was like stigmata. There was a blood trickling down here. So I kind of let it get to just above my lip, and then I took a photograph, and I sent it straight to my brother. And I was like, I am JC. He sent back, I'm going to kill you. But I thought it was very funny. And since then, we've had a few giggles as well about it. But so that was fine. Mopped that up. It was fine. It was just because I took the cold compress away. And actually, we only stayed in the hotel about 2 hours and then we took off back into Germany because I was mindful that I hadn't got into one of those lovely shops that I'd seen in this village. And so we jumped on the tram and went back into town, and we again had a lovely lunch, and we did a little bit of shopping and went sightseeing. Again, I was in absolutely no pain whatsoever. Matthias had asked that I go back to him the next morning and he would tidy up and give me fresh strips, tidy up any kind of blood or whatever, the fact that I was leaving to go home to Ireland. He did say to me, he asked me, he could have used dissolvable stitches, and he asked me if I knew of a medic that would remove the other non-dissolvable stitches. He said because the scarring is better, there's a better chance of a scarless finish with non-dissolvable stitches. So I do have a couple of family members who are medics, so I said absolutely no problem. I will arrange for the stitches to be removed 1 week after the surgery, which was last Monday. So we did that because obviously I wanted the least scarring possible. So that was fine. Then the next morning, so I went out that night. Again, we went for a lovely meal, and actually I just wore my Prada glasses because they were black, and I was at the bar in the hotel, and the guy said to me, why are you wearing your glasses? And because I was up maybe 8 o'clock at night, and I was like, so I literally took them off and I said, because I had eye surgery today, and he nearly passed out. He was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he was like, I don't even know why you would do that. I was about to like ask you for ID, which of course he wasn't, but I was like, nice how you got yourself out of that one. But so yeah, so then we went out for a lovely meal, and next morning woke up and we were flying back. I went back to Matthias' office and he just tidied up. He was happy with everything, as was I. And he actually that night, I got up when we were out for a meal, I got a text message off him saying, how's my patient? And I sent him a photograph of me in the bar with my black Prada glasses and a big beer in my hand. And I was like, thumbs up, and he's like, oh my God, you are nuts. So I was like, yep, she's doing really well. So that was fine. Next morning went out, she tidied up my eyes. Oh, and then we were out, Project and I went off into the village where his actual clinic is, and he'd given me a prescription for an antibiotic drops just in case I needed them. Obviously, he, as we both agreed, better looking at these drops than looking for them, because I would have to go then and get a prescription off a doctor here if I did need them. So he gave it all to me when I was over there. But we went into the village beside his clinic, and it is stunning. Both of us agreed that we probably should have stayed there. It was so beautiful. So just if any of you had decided to go over to Dr. Ice's clinic to have the surgery done, I would say to you, it's so scenic and so beautiful. I'm like already, he said to me, Matthew said to me, now Karina, I'm your doctor for life. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do next? So yeah, we'll see. But I will definitely go and stay in the village where his clinic is. So then that was fine, that all went great, and we drove back to the airport, then returned our car and jumped on a flight home. I think I started to care less about people looking at me. I was like, nobody even knows me and I don't really care anyway. Oh, by the way, at this point, I went onto my Instagram stories and I was meant to upload my strips above my eyes. I felt I looked great, and I will put up here when I'm doing my reels and when I'm doing my YouTube video how I looked each day, because like I said, I took loads of photos, but I accidentally uploaded to my Instagram story. So suddenly I think I copped it fairly quickly. About 400 people seen me talking about my surgery. And so 1 or 2 came on and says, have I missed something? What happened here? I was like, that actually wasn't meant for my public story. It was meant for my subscriptions, for my subscribers. But hey, so I was very honest. It was never something for me that I was going to keep to myself. Not that I wanted to stand on the rooftops and shout about it either, but I was never going to keep it from those that may be interested to know what I was doing. You know, it was absolutely no problem that I would eventually tell everyone. I didn't want to tell everyone before. Like I said, I was afraid too many opinions would come my way. And also I was afraid something would go wrong, you know, and I didn't want, for that reason as well. It was always at the back of my mind. So came home on the plane and everything was great. I felt amazing, absolutely fine, no problem at all. Wednesday was great too. Woke up Wednesday and my eyes were just healing. One was always a little bit more swollen than the other. My the eye, my right eye, I'm almost certain the eye where he took more skin actually healed much, much quicker and had less healing. But like I said to you, and as Matthew's assured me, they would both get to the same place eventually. It was just slightly different routes. And then he also explained to me that the actual inflammation is what heals. So he was happy for me to remain swollen as long as I was, because that was actually my body healing itself, and that's a really good place to be. He wasn't in a rush now for me to be taking ibuprofen or antibiotics to get rid of this inflammation, and I was happy to follow his orders as well. Now, I will tell you, I did Omnilux every day. I had my home Omnilux mask, or else I went into the clinic and did it, and that helped immensely. Like, there was times when I would have before got up, taken a photo before the Omnilux, and 20 minutes after the Omnilux taken another photo, and it was like 3-4 days had advanced in the healing. The Omnilux was absolutely key for getting me through it. And then once Wednesday, Thursday came, then I started to maybe just hide a little bit of what bruising may have been there. And of course I was using my Etel concealer and Etel makeup, which is Skin Science as well. So it's all anti-inflammatory ingredients and antioxidants and hydrating ingredients that are in these products. So I felt that I could put this on injured skin as well. So my Etel concealer has been absolutely incredible through the whole thing. So if you do have any kind of wound on your skin that requires concealing, I would definitely reach for this because of its skin health ingredients, and the fact that you're putting it on to heal as well as to hide whatever your bruising or your whatever wound is there. So I found the Omnilux and my Etel concealer to be probably the two things I couldn't have lived without. And then I did have a pair of glasses. So a long time ago, I wanted to target this loose skin on my eyelid, and I did plasma pen. I'm sure a lot of you would see it online. It was absolutely horrific. It was horrifically painful, and the healing was awful. The swelling was awful. The result was zero, if there was even a change. And my eyes were sensitive, like a red undertone for a long time after it. So I 100% categorically would not recommend you try that. What I did in Germany was far easier. And this even the knowing the skin anatomy like I do, it makes more sense to cut the skin away than to try and burn the skin into tightening. So I did have to buy, when I had the plasma pen about 3-4 years ago, I did have to buy these glasses to try and conceal the wounds because they lingered for weeks. So I don't wear glasses. So I bought a pair of Ray-Bans with lens, like a clear lens in them. They were quite expensive at the time. It actually killed me to buy them, but they came in very, very handy. A lot of you will notice, and I actually got 1 or 2 messages saying, oh, the glass is a permanent thing. So for about 5 to 6 days, so I could come on and chat to my following on Instagram and create content, I wore those Ray-Ban glasses, and when I had them on, they were brilliant. I felt I could go out to the shops, I could go anywhere, and nobody would question my eyes when I was wearing them. But then so I had the surgery Monday, and probably up until the following Wednesday week. No, actually, do you know what it was? The following Monday, I had my stitches. On the Saturday and Sunday, it was like I could feel my body rejecting the stitches. It was like my body recognised they were foreign and they wanted them gone. So all around the side, the site of the stitch was a little bit red and inflamed, and kind of when I blinked, I could feel it. So my cousin removed my stitches on Monday evening, and I'm not even lying when I tell you the relief when they came out was instant. The swelling started to reduce. By the hour, it was getting better. And when I woke up Tuesday, they were so much better. And by Wednesday, I was well on my way, and I didn't even have to wear the glasses anymore. So here we are on Sunday. So like I said, not even 2 weeks post blepharoplasty, I am beyond thrilled with the result. Even today, getting ready to do the podcast here, this is probably the most eye makeup I've worn. I can't believe it. I actually can't believe it's far exceeded my expectations. I feel like I had a facelift. I feel like I'm far less tired looking. Putting on eyeshadow is such a pleasure. I feel like I've got a lift in my eye. Yeah, like I said, I'm absolutely delighted with the result. They're healing lovely, and I've no doubt by the time they're fully healed, I will have no scar. I was in no pain, never in any pain through the whole thing, even this actual surgery. Even the stitches coming out, none of it was painful. what I love about it is I love that, you know, you guys all know that I'm not the biggest fan of Botox. Now, I've had Botox many times, which is why I feel like I'm not a fan of it, because most times I get it, I hate it. But, you know, what I love about the blepharoplasty is I didn't have to inject any toxin into my body. You know, I'm not going back to Matthias in 3 months' time to pay more money to top it up. There's no chance of the result that I'm going to like become immune to it, or I'm going to lose muscle. All those things, you know, I just feel that, you know, the industry would like you to think that, you know, if you have Botox, it will lift your eyelids, etc. I just don't believe in that. You know, I believe that if you do have excess skin and you want it gone, it has to be cut off. Like, it makes sense. It's the kindest way of to your skin, rather than constantly doing lasers or traumas. You know, I often describe trauma treatments. It's like screaming at your skin. And if you imagine, that's why it's so important. Yes, we do lean on these traumas occasionally, but it's the gentle, it's what you're doing every day to strengthen the skin, so that when you come along with the trauma treatment, it's able to withstand it. And yes, all the catalyst of events that you're hoping to incur will actually incur, only because it's healthy. Which is why with any trauma treatment, like any microneedling or any LaserMD, etc., any lasers, any BBLs, whatever it is you're having done, you should be working on your collagen farms, particularly if you're over the age of 25, 30, when each year your collagen farms diminish. Your ability to make and to hold on to the collagen you make are all compromised from the age of 25 right up. We lose more and more each year, and particularly when you go into menopause, you will lose a lot more. So it's things like that I believe in. You know, I don't believe in constantly shouting at the skin. I believe in building the skin up, you know. So for me, that's why blepharoplasty just made so much sense to me, and that's why I knew I would have it. The whole experience was a dream, but I believe that's because I met Dr. Matthias Aust, and because of our relationship, because of his incredible skills and his knowledge, and how invested he is in the skin and in skin health. And yeah, so the result is just, I'm thrilled. I'm beyond thrilled. I'm so delighted I did it, and I would not hesitate in 10, 15 years doing it again. And yeah, so like I said, for me, you know, I guess I did mess around with plasma pen. I've already told you guys that I did have do that treatment, and it was awful. So that's why I believe, you know, if there is something that, you know, that's bothering you, that you want to have done or whatever, or you know, that you'd like to fix, I think just target it. You know, don't kind of beat around the bush. Don't be throwing money at other modalities that aren't going to work, you know. Like, Botox is not going to lift. You must remember, when it comes to lifting, you're fighting gravity the whole time, you know. Like, adding in fillers is only really adding in weight, you know. As much as a doctor might tell you that putting filler up here is going to lift down here, ultimately gravity is going to pull on that hyaluronic acid. That's what was injected into your face as well. Like, be sensible about it, you know. And yeah, and you know, just be mindful of what you're putting your body through, and be mindful of what time you're wasting. Be mindful that the younger you are going into any surgery, the better the outcome, because your growth factors, etc. And also the trauma that you're putting your skin through. Now, when the surgery was done, and I could see my skin on the board and the fat deposits, like, I was like having a little play. And then afterwards I was like, oh my God, a little bit of me is dead. A little bit of me died today. And also, those eyelids got a lot of vitamin A over the years. A lot of eye gel was used on that skin. So I was a little bit like, okay, they were expensive. They were expensive to cut off. They were well-minded. But yeah, so that's my blepharoplasty story. That's my blepharoplasty result. By all means, if anyone wants to have a look, I will post, you know, a lot more. I need to kind of just do my makeup and do my hair and post a proper after. I'm not even 2 weeks, so I could probably wait another 2 or 4 weeks for more healing and more of the result really to come through before I do. But I will put all Dr. Matthias Aust's details up. Obviously, that is who I would recommend, and much like anything in life, not all experiences are the same, but mine was an absolute joy, and it was so positive, and I'm so glad I just went for it. You know, I did the work, I did the research. Obviously, I'm in the skincare industry, so from that end, I had it all covered. I knew what was right, I knew what felt good. Most importantly, I found the surgeon that I trusted and that I had a relationship with, and that I aligned with on a lot of my thoughts and values. So that's really, really important as well. And then I just went for it. And I am so glad I did. So like I said, if anyone's any questions, feel free to reach out to me in my DMs, or you can, if you're in clinic and if you want to have a look, by all means, I'm here and I'm happy to help. I can only really tell you about my experience, but it was a very positive experience, and it's a great feeling to take control of something in your life, do something about it, and done. And I'm delighted, and like I said, if it's something that's required again in the future, I wouldn't hesitate in doing it. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Skin Deep by Karina Toad, and I hope you liked my more relaxed approach this time. This could be a thing. I could turn this into a podcast studio. Until next time, I will be back in a couple of weeks' time. I hope you take care of yourself and you take care of each other, and we'll talk again soon.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Professor Dr. Aust. I'm a plastic surgeon from Germany, but I prefer if you call me Matthias. Corinne just asked me to tell a bit about my work, especially about blepharoplasties, and how actually easy and quick this operation is for the patient in terms of it's under local anesthesia, it's completely pain-free, and there's hardly any downtime. You can shower immediately. After 1 week, the stitches are removed, and actually the normal response of the patient after that procedure is that they say, shit, I should have done it much, much earlier, because everything went very, very smooth. You don't change any thing of the eye. It's just you look fresher. The scar is almost hidden, and after a couple of weeks or months, hardly visible anymore. So yes, I love that procedure. And I love, by the way, Corinne was such a funny and cool patient. She went to a brewery at the evening after the surgery and sent me a picture with a beer. So I was laughing lots. I wish every patient could be like her.